It just rubs me the wrong way when someone's every ounce of his like aura is to convince you that he's more rational than you. Like I can't stand that thing where it's like
totally
everything he does where it's like, now a lot of people make emotional decisions. Whereas I choose to see things rationally. And the rational thought always says, it's like, okay, you can be pissed off sometimes, by the way. You should be emotional sometimes. Like, no, you have to mix emotion and logic in life. Like, that's why we have both of them. That's why they're both important. And if I'm talking about throwing people in fucking cages for nonviolent crimes, or I'm talking about slaughtering people by the hundreds of thousands so some fucking, asshole at Lockheed Martin can see his fucking stock go up, I'm not just going to sit there and go like, now, Lockheed Martin has been buying off our government for years so that they'll continue these wars and destabilize the regions further. It's like, no, I'm sorry, we're human beings here. And I'll tell you, here's the thing, right? This is the weird thing where, and I know a lot of people have pointed this out, but where like atheism does become a religion itself. And look, I'll admit I have my bias here too, right? Like Sam Harris, he put all his chips in on this identity because this is how human beings work. We all cling to our identities. And his identity was like new atheist. And my identity was like radical libertarian. Okay? So when you look at the wars in the Middle East, what Sam Harris immediately looks at is, well, who's the most religious here? Well, okay, we're pretty secular, and they're religious fundamentalists. So obviously, they've got to be the bad guys in this scenario because that's what all his chips are in on. Whereas my chips have been in on libertarianism, which tends to look at state violence. And if you look at state violence and you look at the wars in the Middle East, you're like, ooh, you know what? We're not really looking like the good guys here. And it's unbelievable to me when you hear him on Rogan, on his podcast, on all these other podcasts, he will religiously ascribe good intentions to the United States government. That it's unbelievable. Like he'll just be like, well, if our intentions are to save people and we drone bomb people because we really just want to get the bad guys and we don't, and it's like, are you telling me you're convinced that while Dick Cheney goes and works for Halliburton and then their stock goes up 6,000%, you're just going to blindly ascribe, oh no, there's no bad intentions there. There's no way that they know exactly what the fuck they're doing and they're just slaughtering hundreds of thousands of people for their own gain.
But he's rational though, Dave.
You're right. Yeah.
It's so funny because I don't buy anybody that says that because we're not thinking animals who feel, we're feeling animals who think. I can't remember who said that, but it's a good point. And it's like, and I have a predisposition to be grateful or to worship something because I think it's just in my DNA. And so people that deny that literally claim they're like an AI bot are fucking liars and narcissists. And it's like, that is a quick road to hell too. If you can't see your own worship, like what you just described, where it's like, well, we're rational, so everything we do is great. It's like, that's not only just as crazy, that's way crazier than religion, because religion never had the body counts. And I'm sorry, people will say the Spanish Inquisition, those body counts were like in the thousands, not the hundreds of millions. And most of the time it's when the state would back a religion.
Yes.
Is when the Christian wars in the 1600s and 1700s in Europe, that would be because they were fighting a zero-sum game to get the state to back their type of Christianity. So that's why a lot of this shit isn't really comparable, because it was the state's favor is what made those wars.
Yeah, no, look, man, you can't, and that's the other thing, right? It's like once there's a separation between church and state, there's really no problem with church. And if you want to come up to something where it's like, oh, well, the Christians killed people in this, it's like, yeah, you're going to go back to a time before there was a separation of church and state. If you want to say that, like, anything, if you want to say what the Jews are doing to the Palestinians even, you'd be like, okay, well, that's because it's a state. And anytime it's going to be something, if you want to talk about what ISIS is doing, well, that's because essentially they're acting as what they consider themselves to be forming a state. If you want to look at what so it's like every time the real issue is the state. And of course, what kind of backs this up is that if you look at true socialism, which is really the most naked version of statism, like, oh, we're not even going to pretend the state's limited by this. The state is going to run everything. It's not a coincidence that that's where you have these incredibly high body counts. Now, I'm sure there is a point also that there were larger populations, but even if you adjust for like population size, there's no way you're ever going to get to the numbers of starved and killed people that Mao Zedong, and you're not even getting close.
No.